Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn a bit more about UMass Boston's Project Beacon. This is our recorded information session. What we'll talk through today is the purpose of Project Beacon. We will talk a little bit about the school psychology MED-EDS program at UMass Boston, as well as the school counseling and school adjustment counseling MED program. We will talk about the overview of Project Beacon, what the benefits are, as well as the obligations of being a fellow, and how to apply and the timeline of the application process. So to get started, Project Beacon, it is training school mental health providers in transformative social emotional learning and advocacy. This project is an innovative training partnership between UMass Boston and 3 high-need school districts in Massachusetts, including Brockton, Lawrence, and Quincy public schools. The purpose of the project is to prepare school psychologists and school counselors from diverse backgrounds to work in high-need schools, increasing students' access to school mental health services. And more specifically, UMass Boston and the United States Department of Education and the funding that we received for this grant is interested in increasing the diversity of providers, school mental health providers specifically, and by increasing access to advanced degrees and supporting recruitment and retention of individuals who will bring diverse lived experiences and perspectives to the field of school mental health. And this will hopefully increase access for students in schools to access mental health services. When we say diversity of providers, we are referring to racial, linguistic, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, and socioeconomic diversity. One important note is that, unfortunately, this opportunity is not available to international students. And this is not a determination that's been made by UMass Boston. This is a determination made by the funders, which is the Department of Education. This is our Project Beacon team. So here I am, Dr. Stacy Bender. I'm an associate professor of school psychology. And joining me today in this informational webinar is Dr. Tim Poynton, who is an associate professor of school counseling. The two of us, in addition to our 4 colleagues here, Dr. Lindsay Fallon, Dr. Amy Cook, Dr. Laura Hayden, and Dr. Tracy Paskowitz, are a combination of faculty from school counseling and school psychology that have worked together to create Project Beacon. And we're really excited about working with you. To give a little bit of background about the school psychology and school counseling programs here at UMass Boston, we'll get into more specifics in just a moment, but we wanted to just hit a couple highlights here before we get into more details. For the school psychology master's program, so MED, Master's in Education, and the EDS, Education Specialist degree, the prerequisites to apply to our graduate school psychology program here at UMass is that applicants must have taken 5 psychology courses as an undergrad or prior to coming to our graduate program. Those include an Intro to Psychology course, Human Development, Statistics, and then 2 additional psychology courses of your choice. Additionally, we're looking for about a 3.0 GPA or so, but that is not a strict cutoff. We do look at students' applications holistically. So we're looking at the courses you took, your GPA, but also things like your letters of recommendation and your personal statements, why you're interested in obtaining your degree in school psychology, why you're interested in UMass Boston. In terms of our program here at UMass Boston, the MED-EDS program is 3 years, and that is full-time. 2 years, you will be on campus taking courses, doing practicum, and then that 3rd year is a full-time internship for the entire year in a school. The total number of credits for the program is 66. General responsibilities or general training and courses that you'll be taking as part of the program are things like individual and group counseling, consultation, cognitive, academic, and behavioral assessment and testing. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. The internship requirements. So as I mentioned, our 3rd year in the school psychology program is when you would be completing your full-time internship. There you would be taking or completing 1,200 hours for that school year. That training is in addition to the 400 hours that you would be completing in practicum in year 2. So you're really well equipped and you have lots of experience in schools before you graduate and apply for your job. The degrees that you would obtain being part of this program is the MED or Master's of Education. You would receive that after your second year. And then after your third year, once you complete your internship, you're awarded the Education Specialist degree. The postgraduate credentials. So what are you eligible for after you receive your degrees here at UMass Boston? You're eligible for your license in school psychology or becoming a licensed school psychologist by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We call it DESE. And you are also eligible for your nationally, to become a nationally certified school psychologist or NCSP. That's optional, it's not required. But that is a national certification provided by the National Association of School Psychologists. Our program here at UMass Boston is accredited by the National Association of School Psychologists, which means that the training, the experiences, the coursework are all considered to be at the highest level and is recognized by that National Organization of School Psychologists. The mean salary in Massachusetts as of May 2022, when we had researched this, is about $95,000 a year. I'll turn it over to Dr. Poynton to talk about school counseling.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate that. So as it says on the right-hand side of the screen, the school counseling program has both an in-person and an online program. So they're two distinct and separate programs. Unlike school psychology that has just an in-person kind of traditional on-campus program, we do have both online and on-campus programs. I will say that both the online and the on-campus programs both require online courses, and the on-campus program actually has summer courses. You start the school counseling program with some in-person summer courses. We use a cohort model. And in the on-campus program, you actually take your summer courses online. So they're both technically hybrid programs, but the online program is facilitated largely online, and the on-campus program is facilitated largely on campus. So there's some differences between them, other differences that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But the school counseling program takes 2 years to complete with two summers. And is also a 66 credit program, just like school psychology. But we pack things in a little bit more tightly in terms of the practicum and internship and the number of courses that you take each semester. So that's how we're able to do that in 2 years as opposed to 3. Leads to a Master of Education in Counseling. That's the name of the degree program. It's a counseling MED. And at completion of the program, if you pursue the program that leads to the counseling MED, combined program leads to licensure as both a school counselor and a school adjustment counselor. So you actually get 2 licenses from DESE upon completion of the program. But it does require the 1,350 hours of internship during that second and final year of the program, which is a lot. So but you do end up with 2 licenses from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And that's to be a part of Project Beacon, you do need to pursue both licenses. The salary from the research that we did previously for school counselors in Massachusetts is around $76,800. That's the average salary. Given that both school psychologists and school counselors both tend to be part of the teachers union, we're not able to fully explain why there's such a large difference. But some ideas are, for example, you do get paid a little bit more for having an EDS as opposed to just a master's degree. So that's part of the difference. Most unions have negotiated that. And some school psychologists may be working a little bit more over the summer, and you typically get paid more than that if you're on a 10-month contract, which most school counselors are. If you work over the summer, you get paid some additional compensation for that. So, but yeah. So, anything else to add to that, Dr. Bender?
Nope. I think that those are our guesses, right, about why we see that.
The data is what it is. We got that probably from the oh, it's not the census data, but I forget exactly where we got it from. But yes, we're not making up those numbers. But yeah.
Great. So just to give a little bit of information about what is a school psychologist and what is a school counselor, because as we mentioned, for this Project Beacon Fellowship, and what we'll talk a little bit more about in just a few slides, is that in order to apply to the fellowship, applicants need to apply to either the school psychology program or the school counseling program. And there is a lot of overlap between the two fields. And so sometimes folks ask us what's the difference, or what makes each of those fields unique. And so Dr. Point and I will just talk through a few of the similarities, but then some of the unique features and differences between these two different fields here that may be helpful in helping you determine which of the two programs you would be more interested in applying to. So what are school psychologists? School psychologists are uniquely trained to support schools, students, teachers, and families. Their expertise in mental health, learning, and behavior make them an invaluable member of the school community. So they're experts in learning and behavior, mental health, and school systems, and putting all of that together to help students be successful in school, at home, and in the community. If you have any additional questions or would like more specifics about any of this information, feel free to scan the QR code over here in the left-hand corner, and it will take you to that National Association of School Psychologists organization that will give more in-depth info and detail about this. But generally speaking, what do school psychs do, and what are we training you to do here at UMass Boston? One big piece of your training, a really important piece of training, and one area that does make school psychology unique and different from school counseling, is the expertise in assessment and evaluation. So you will learn cognitive, academic, behavior, social, emotional, and adaptive learn how to assess all of those different areas for students in schools, and also link that to intervention. So not only are we trying to determine what's going on for the student, how can we help them be more successful, what is their current level of functioning, but then how do we link that to intervention? So that that expertise in assessment and evaluation is a really important skill for school psychologists to have. And then, as I mentioned, you link it to intervention. So we're also training students on how to do things like counseling, how to implement social skills programs, how to do one-on-one counseling, small groups, but also more school-wide types of supports. Related to that, we're also training students on how to be preventative, right? So how do we help school climate? How do we, what contributes to a positive school climate? How do we improve relationships between students, but also between the adults in the school and students? How do we improve culturally responsive services and promote diversity within schools and districts? We're also looking to support the adults in schools and at home and in the community that work with kids. So people like teachers and families and community members, administrators, all of their work impacts kids in schools. And so school psychologists also work with adults in the areas of education and systems level work and mental health, so that they're better equipped to also support students in schools. School psychs also have the skills to collaborate with community providers and outside agencies to provide supports to students. And the last piece I'll mention here is school psychologists are also trained in things like program evaluation and systems level change. So they can evaluate effectiveness of academic and behavioral intervention. They work to provide and support more equitable policies and practices in schools, provide professional development for the adults that are working in schools. And again, overall, putting all these different skills together to improve learning, behavior, social, emotional, and overall wellness for our kids and our youth in schools. In terms of the program here at UMass Boston, so the MED-EDS program, as I mentioned a few slides ago, is 66 credits. So you'll do 54 credits in courses, which will take place in year 1 and 2, and 12 credits in field work. So your year 1, students year 1, in the fall, they take 4 courses, spring, 4 courses, summer between year 1 and year 2, 2 courses. Year 2, students are taking 4 courses in the fall and in the spring again. And in addition to that, students are also doing a 1.5 to 2 day a week practicum in a school setting. If you are a Beacon Fellow, you would be doing your practicum in one of our 3 partner districts for your practicum. And then year 3, no courses. You will be doing, well, there's an internship seminar that meets remotely. But year 3, you will be dedicated to your full-time internship, which spans the entire school year. And it follows the school calendar. So that runs about late August to mid-June. And you will be working full-time as an intern. A few things I just want to mention here is our program here at UMass Boston in school psychology is in person. There are some courses that are offered remotely, but the program is in person. And courses are offered at 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. and take place twice a week. So usually the courses are Mondays and Wednesdays, 4 p.m., 7 p.m. So students are in campus usually 2 days a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then that opens up your daytime for if you work during the day. It also opens up your time so that when you are completing your practicum in year 2, you have a variety of days during the week that you would be able to be at your site for your practicum hours.
Great. Thank you. And as Dr. Bender said, there is a lot of overlap between what a school counselor does and what a school psychologist does. In fact, sometimes, particularly at the elementary and middle school level, it's hard to tell the difference from a distance, if you will, of whether or not the person's training is as a school psychologist or a school counselor, because there is that much overlap. And if you look at our courses, there's actually a number of courses that both school psychologists and school counselors take together. Or at least they're the same courses. So the counseling skills, group counseling, child and adolescent counseling, collaborative consultation. Those are all courses that both school counselors and school psychologists take. Again, just reflecting the overlap that exists among those different roles. But what I would say, though, a key differentiator between them is obviously the psychological testing, which is not something school counselors do. And while both school counselors and school psychologists work with all students, I think that the emphasis in a school counselor's work is more on the all students. And that for school psychologists, I think it's fair to say that a lot of the emphasis in their work is on students who are in special education or but that's not to say that they don't meet with any students who are not involved with special education, just like school counselors sometimes are doing counseling as part of a student's individualized education plan. But again, there's much more overlap than there is distinction, I would say, with the exception being with the psychological testing that the counselors are not qualified or trained to do. So we're happy to have our school psychologist colleagues that do that really important work. But so school counselors are trained to support students' academic and social emotional needs by providing counseling, teaching, and guidance services. They collaborate with other educators to offer comprehensive care in terms of people's social emotional needs, academic needs, and their career and workforce development needs as well. So counselors do that by working in what's called core curriculum. That's essentially working with students in classroom environments. That could be looking like a teacher a bit, teaching things like social emotional skills, resume writing, behavior management, things like that. Doing individual student planning is more typical at the high school level. This is things like scheduling classes, doing career assessments, thinking about post-secondary plans, be that college or transitioning into the workforce and things like that. Responsive services are what I like to think of as meeting the immediate needs of students, sometimes referred to as crisis counseling. That's unfortunately pretty common in schools. Both school psychologists and school counselors do this kind of crisis-oriented work when students have difficulties that are preventing them from fully participating in their school environment. So we also do what's called indirect services. This is where we work with other people in the school community, be that parents, community members, teachers, principals, other counselors, etc., where we're not working directly with students, but we're working on behalf of students. And then there's so many other things that we do as well. It's one of the great things about being a school counselor is that oftentimes school counselors go to work with 15 things that they want to get done that day, and they only get 5 of them done, but they were busy all day because I guess the one thing that you can say about the work of a school counselor is to expect the unexpected. So, and that's one of the exciting parts of the work, in that, um, yeah, you need to be flexible and adaptive. And I think again, that's similarly true for school psychologists as well. But if you want to learn more, you can scan that QR code that's provided there, to go to the American School Counselor Association website and learn more. So our school counseling program is, again, so I'm focusing here today and talking about the combined school adjustment / school counselor program that leads to both licensure as both a school adjustment and a school counselor, sometimes also known as a school guidance counselor. So our Project Beacon attendees to be fully trained and prepared for addressing the mental health needs of students need to have both the school counseling and school adjustment counseling knowledge and experience. That's part of the grant. But if you're not interested in that as much and just want to be a traditional school guidance counselor, if you will, that's in our regular MED program, but that program is not part of Project Beacon. So the benefits that we're going to talk about here a little bit later wouldn't apply. But we do have two programs. We had the combined program, school counseling / school adjustment, and then we just have the school counseling program. That is a 60 credit program, but the 66 credit program leads to licensure as both a school counselor and a school adjustment counselor. As I mentioned previously, our online and on-campus programs, we have both online and on-campus programs. They both start in the summer, so our applications are due here by February 15th at the latest, and they start at the end of May or early June. As you can see here, there's some differences between the programs. One of them is the price. Our online program is $575 per credit currently. The on-campus program is currently $807 per credit. So there is a little bit of a tuition difference. As I mentioned previously, the first summer in the online program, your two classes consist of meeting for 2 weeks in person in an in-person intensive kind of format. We're planning on doing this at UMass Boston this year for the first time. We've traditionally done this at UMass Dartmouth. So I believe we're going to do it in our relatively new dorms here on the UMass Boston campus. So that's exciting for us. But it is, you will be living and learning essentially with your classmates and your cohort mates in the online program for that first 2 weeks. You are not required to stay in the dorms. If you live in the Boston area, you don't need to live in the dorms, but you're going to be spending 9 to 5 essentially. Those first 2 weeks is spent in classes learning the counseling skills. Our individual and group counseling skill classes are done there. After that first summer and those first 2 classes, all of the remaining classes are facilitated online. And our online classes meet typically 2 days a week for 1 to 2 hours each class. So our field-based classes tend to have 90 or 120-minute classes, but our content classes have 1 hour synchronous class meetings that are supplemented with asynchronous activities like discussion board posts, watching videos, and other forms of online learning. So the online classes typically start at 4 or 5 p.m. and are never on Fridays. Our online program is designed for full-time study only, so we do expect the students to be pursuing that, taking essentially 3 to 4 classes each semester. And our online program does tend to be more selective and competitive than the on-campus program. The on-campus program, as I mentioned previously, does have all of the summer classes are facilitated online, but the fall and spring classes are all facilitated completely in person. So classes are typically 2 days a week at 4 and 7 p.m., just like school psychology, and never on Fridays. For our full-time students in the on-campus program, if you're following the cohort model, as long as I've been here, which has been 10 years now, they've always been 2 days a week. We don't have, it's not always on Mondays and Wednesdays. It might be different days, but it does tend to be 2 days a week. But you can pursue part-time study as part of the on-campus program. And the on-campus program, at least for the past couple of years, has been a little bit less selective and competitive than our online program. So why be a Beacon Fellow? So number one, is the tuition assistance that it affords you. So in the school counseling program, you get 50% off of your tuition bill for the first year of the program. And while you're in your internship during that fall and spring semester of your second year, you actually do not have to pay any tuition. You are still responsible for some of the fees, but they're relatively small. In school psychology, it's a 3-year program as noted previously, so you get the 50% tuition waiver for year 1. While you're in your practicum in year 2 in school psychology, you get a 75% tuition waiver, and then a 100% tuition waiver for year 3 when you're in your full-time internship. And the idea behind doing this is given the fact that they are both in school counseling and school psychology, both full-time internships that really prevent you from working in a traditional full-time job. We wanted to provide this financial benefit of 100% tuition coverage in that final year of the program. Next slide. Also, to try and give you some more financial incentive, if you will, for participating in Project Beacon and doing the full-time internship that's required of both of those programs, we'll also give you $26,000 as a stipend that you can use to help support your other living expenses and other expenses besides tuition. So this is a big benefit. Again, recognizing the fact that most of our Project Beacon fellows are not going to be able to have regular employment during their internship year. So we wrote into the grant and are able to provide any Project Beacon fellow with the $26,000 stipend, which is a really nice benefit for folks. We also are providing travel reimbursement. As mentioned previously, our internship placement sites will be in Brockton, Lawrence, and Quincy. So if you're driving to your site, we can provide some mileage reimbursement for your travel to and from your home to your internship site. Or if you are going to be using the T, we can provide you with reimbursement for a T-Pass to attend your internship. And if for the school psychology students, practicum as well. Well, we're also able to provide a new computer. There's a $1,000 limit on it, and we just need to order it. So you'll be able to choose between a Mac and a PC. I believe that is depending on your preference. So, but you can't go buy it on your own and get reimbursed for it. We will provide it as part of the grant, and you do need to return it to us upon graduation. We'll also give you some material stipends if you want to get some additional materials while you're on an internship, maybe buy some books to support your work, or other supplies. We're able to provide you with $150 there as well. And also with your cohort mates and classmates from Project Beacon, we're able to provide you with $800 to attend an online and or in-person professional conference. We're still working out some of the details on this, on which conference it might be, but yes, this is an opportunity to both learn about mental health in schools and an opportunity to network with other professionals and your cohort and classmates as part of this. Some additional benefits of Project Beacon. Believe it or not, there is more. But you do have part of the innovative training model that we have is using what's called mixed reality simulations. These mixed reality simulations essentially put you in counseling type situations with an avatar. But the avatar is actually driven by a real person on the other end of that computer, if you will. So that's the mixed reality piece, and it is innovative. It is also not inexpensive, so we don't do this in all of our regular classes. This is a unique added value benefit of being a part of Project Beacon. Also, we're going to connect you with a mentor for the duration of your program while you're a Project Beacon fellow. So this entails meeting monthly with your supervisor at times that you arrange that are mutually convenient for both of you. To support your growth and development as a mental health provider who works in schools. We also have some summer institutes and webinars that provide learning opportunities to connect with other Beacon Fellows, and we have some really well-regarded and well-known speakers from the field. Our very own Carrie Wilkins-Yell, who does a lot of great work in supporting students and supporting school mental health for students from diverse backgrounds. We also have Maggie Viega, who is a school psychologist, currently at Bridgewater State University. just as two examples of the speakers, but we do have great speakers to come to our summer institutes and our fall and spring webinars. So as you can see, our training model here, the mentorship framework, sorry, not the training model, the mentorship framework involves collaboration, reflective practice, empowerment, anti-racist practice, reflective practice, and sponsorship to all kind of lead to developing and promoting a professional identity that will make you successful as a school counselor or school psychologist.
Just want to mention too, for the summer institutes and webinars, those are held on Zoom. So the summer institutes are about a half day or about 3-hour event. And then the fall and spring webinars are about a 90-minute or hour-and-a-half event. And as I just said, they're on Zoom. Usually in the evening is how we've had them. We just admitted our first Project Beacon cohort in fall 2023. So we just had, our first fall institute. We are in the midst of planning our spring institute for spring 2024. And the timing of those seems to work best for everybody when they're in the evening.
So the Beacon Fellow, part of being a Beacon Fellow, we've gone over all the benefits. Now there are the things that are going to be required of you to be a Project Beacon Fellow. So number one, obviously, is you need to be in one of our UMass Boston graduate programs in school counseling or school psychology. Other requirements are that we do offer those institutes, the summer institutes and the fall and spring webinars. You do need to attend those. Those are required. You do need to meet with your mentor monthly. Again, that's an important part of the program, so we do require that, and that is an obligation on your part. We do ask, again, since we are getting, I believe it's $5.7 million it is over the life of this project we're getting. The people who sponsored us want to know how well our project is working, so we are going to ask you to complete some annual surveys and evaluations. They won't be too arduous, but we will ask that you complete them. You do also importantly need to complete your internship in one of our partner districts, so that's Brockton, Lawrence, or Quincy. And you do need to work for a minimum of 4 years after graduating from the graduate program in a high needs school district. So this is often something that people ask a lot of questions about. So let me be very clear about this. So for our purposes, and as we wrote it into the grant, we're using the Massachusetts definition of a high needs school, of which, as you can see here on the bottom, 306 of the 399 public school districts in Massachusetts meet this requirement of being high needs. So obviously Brockton, Lawrence, and Quincy each are high need districts, but there are lots of other high need districts that exist in Massachusetts as well. If you decide to work outside of the state, you can do that as long as that is a high need district. So another question that we often get is what if you're not able to work in a high need district? And I would say that we're not going to be chasing people beyond our regular annual surveys and evaluations on the one hand. On the other hand, what it would mean, practically speaking, is that we wouldn't be able to write you a letter of recommendation at this point if we know that you are not in compliance with this part of the grant. So for good news, I guess, is that for the past couple of years, and part of the reason for having this grant is that there is a school counselor shortage, there is a shortage of school psychologists. So being able to find a position in one of the 77% of school districts in Massachusetts that meet the high needs designation, or other states are going to be similar as well, it's not going to be really difficult to do. And we're happy to support you in those endeavors. But that is part of the work. The work years. Basically what we're looking for is to not have somebody go through our training program and then work in a private Catholic school, for example. It's not going to meet the mission of the grant, so to speak. So anything to add to that, Dr. Bender?
No, I think that
right.
sounds great. Thank you.
So applying to Project Beacon and applying to be a Project Beacon Fellow has two parts to it. Number one, you need to submit the graduate school application, either in school counseling, school adjustment counseling, or in school psychology. So in school counseling, we have our priority deadline is currently January 2nd. Our final deadline is February 15th. And in school psychology, their deadline is January 2nd. So the second piece that you need for this is to apply to complete the Project Beacon application, which is a Google form that's linked to from our website that Dr. Bender is going to demonstrate here in just a moment.
Yes, great. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen. And I'm going to share our Project Beacon website. So when you go to our Project Beacon website, this is what you will see. Has some information about Project Beacon. That's a great 2-minute snapshot about the purpose of the project, of this grant. And then you can click on these other tabs that will give you some more detail and some information that we've talked through in this informational session. But yeah, if you want to go back to learn more about the grant, you can do so here. To apply to our the 2 graduate programs, as well as the Project Beacon application, you would click on this button right here, apply. And right here for School Counseling Adjustment Specialization MED program, it's linked right here to apply through our UMass Boston website. For School Psychology MED EDS, the link is right here. So I'm just going to demonstrate quickly if I was interested in school counseling. It will take me to this site. I realize it says counseling, MED and CAGS up here, but you're in the right place. You're in the right place. This is linked to the correct website for you to apply to the school counseling program. What you'll do is learn a little bit more about the program. And right here, click Start Your Application. When I click on that, it would be under Graduate Applicants. And you would go to Graduate Application, All Others, because we're not School of Nursing or School of Business. So you will go to All Others, Graduate Application, and then it'll take you to this website where you will create a profile and an account. And then this will allow you to access the portal to upload your resume, your personal statement, your transcripts, other aspects of the application that are required. If I go back to this site here, again, how to apply, I'll just very quickly demonstrate for school psychology. It'll be very similar. You'll click on Apply Now. Here we are, school psychology. Start your application. Graduate applicants, graduate application, all others. And it is the same GradCast portal. Okay, I'll click out of that. So after you apply to the one of the 2 graduate programs, you will also be applying to the Project Beacon Fellowship. So here we have the application, as Dr. Poynton noted, it is a Google form, and it's a pretty low lift. So what you'll be doing is click right here, Apply Now. Here's our Google form. This is just a summary of why become a Beacon Fellow and what are those obligations that Dr. Poynton already had read or had talked us through a few minutes ago. So we'll click Next. Your name, email address, which application for which graduate program that you had submitted, some background information that the grant requires us to collect a report on, Project Beacon. Okay, so which of the school district would you be able to participate in an internship at? This just gives us a general sense as to when you're applying to the fellowship, what districts our applicants are maybe interested or closer to, that they would be able and willing to complete their internship and practicum at. And then here's the important part here. In 500 words or less, please describe why you want to become a Project Beacon Fellow. Be sure to include how being a fellow connects with your past experiences and your future goals. So you'll include that information right there and then click the submit button, and then you are all set. Other things to note about this is the application deadline for Project Beacon is February 15th. Shortly after that, finalists for the fellowship will be contacted by Project Beacon faculty. We'll do a short interview with folks, and then shortly after that, finalists will be notified of their status of whether they were accepted into the fellowship or not. So stop share there. come back to our last slide here. Okay, so for more information, feel free to visit our Project Beacon website, which is that website that I just shared. You can access through that QR code right there or our website. If you have any questions about the application process, about our programs, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Poynton if you're interested in school counseling, or myself for school psychology. Of the faculty team that I had shared with you all earlier in our informational session here, Dr. Poynton and I are the people who do the outreach and a lot of the recruitment and answering of questions related to applying to our fellowship program. So we look forward to hearing from you. Anything else to add?
No, thank you for your time and attention. And yes, we look forward to hearing you. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to direct them to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.